At my mom's retirement party, I showed up with a gift basket my kids helped put together. My brother opened the door and said, "It's probably best if you don't come in." I didn't respond. Just took my kids' hands and left. 40 minutes later, my aunt called. "Why did the venue cancel?" "Mom's having a breakdown." I smiled and replied. I was already angry. Angry at their arrogance, at how easily they pushed us aside as if we were nothing. On the way to Tyler's house, I told myself that this time I wasn't going to put up with it. I wasn't going to let my children stand there and watch everyone else being treated like family while they were barely noticed. My mother's retirement party was supposed to be a big event. I made sure of that. I paid for the venue myself, $4,000 up front. I didn't even mention it to anyone because I knew how they would react. My family doesn't pay for things unless it gives them the opportunity to get credit or control others. The kids helped me put together a gift basket the night before. They were so proud of it. My daughter chose a lavender candle, and my son found a wine glass with the inscription, "Officially retired, forever relaxed." They wrapped the gift together and kept asking when Grandma would open it. First, we drove to Tyler's house because we planned to gather there together. I had a glimmer of hope that maybe things would be different. Then Tyler opened the door. He didn't even look guilty. He glanced back at the house, then turned to me and said, "Maybe it's better if you don't come in." That was it. No explanations. No apologies. Just a dry statement of fact. I looked at my children, who were holding the basket between them, and at that moment I knew it was over. I turned the car around, got in, and drove away. I didn't ask why. I didn't want to know. When we got home, I picked up my phone, opened the venue booking app, and cancelled the reservation. There was no refund, but seeing them scramble around was worth every penny. 40 minutes later, my aunt called and yelled into the phone. "Why did you cancel the venue? Your mother broke down." I just smiled and said she should probably ask Tyler. Then I hung up. The calls kept coming. My mom, Tyler, my aunt. I ignored every one of them. I sat with the kids on the couch, and we ate chocolate from the gift basket while they watched cartoons. That night, my mom left me a voicemail saying that I had ruined the most important day of her life. That I always find a way to make everything revolve around me. She still doesn't know that I paid for the party venue. She still doesn't know that the moment Tyler told me not to come, I made sure there would be no party. And I'm not even done yet. The next morning, I woke up to over a dozen missed calls and a wall of texts. Some were from my mom, some from Tyler, a few from numbers I didn't even recognize. Apparently, after I canceled the venue, no one thought to check until they showed up to a locked door with the lights off. My mom ended up crying in the parking lot while everyone argued about who was responsible. Tyler texted me saying I humiliated the family. That mom was devastated and I should be ashamed of myself. I stared at the message for a while before replying. I wrote, "You told me not to come in. You made the call, not me." He left me on read. Typical. I thought that would be the end of it, but a few days later my mom called again. This time she didn't even bother pretending she was calling to check on the kids. She just launched into a tirade about how I embarrassed her in front of everyone, how people are still talking about her ruined party. She demanded I apologize. I didn't say anything. I just hung up. A week after that was my son's birthday. I sent out invites, even to my family, though I knew better. The day came and not a single one of them showed up. No text. No call. Nothing. My son kept looking at the door, expecting someone to walk through it, but no one did. That was when I decided I was done for good. I blocked them on everything. Phone, social media, even email. Then I logged into the joint account I had with my mom, the one I'd stupidly kept open because she always had an excuse for needing help with bills, and I shut it down. A week later, she tried to call me from another number. I didn't answer. Then she texted. It was about the house repairs they were starting soon, and that she needed me to send my half. She didn't even ask if I was okay or mention my son's birthday. I replied with one word, no. Then I blocked that number too. I knew it wouldn't end there. People like them don't let go easily, not when they're used to you saying yes every time they need something. And I was right. About 2 weeks passed before they tried again. It started with a message from Tyler, sent from his wife's number. He didn't even pretend to be casual. He wrote, "We need to talk. The contractors are asking for deposits and Mom's been calling you." I didn't answer. Then my mom tried again. She sent a long rambling text about family obligations, how she didn't raise me to be cold-blooded, and how disappointed my late father would have been if he saw me now. She thought guilt would work. It always had before. But not this time. I deleted the message and moved on with my day. But a few days later, there was a knock on my door. I opened it and there they were. My mom and Tyler. I didn't even know how they got my new address, but there they stood like they had every right. My mom didn't say hi. She just started in, saying things like, "We are family, Amanda. You can't just cut us off. The house repairs are halfway done. We need your contribution." I told her I wasn't contributing a cent, that the joint account was closed and she'd have to figure it out with Tyler. She stared at me like she couldn't process the word no. She wasn't used to it. Then Tyler chimed in, saying I was acting like a brat and punishing everyone because I was too sensitive to handle a joke. A joke. That's what he called barring me from entering his house with my kids. I asked them if they even remembered my son's birthday. Silence. Then Tyler muttered something about being busy. I told them to leave. My mom said we'd talk when I was, I shut the door in her face. For the next few days, I kept getting texts from random numbers. Cousins, aunts, even a friend of the family. All telling me I was making a big deal out of nothing, that the family needed me, and that I'd regret being so petty. But I wasn't done yet. They wanted to play this game? Fine. I had a few more cards to play, because I knew something about the house repairs they didn't. Something that was about to make things worse for them. What they didn't know was that the contractor they hired, I recommended him. I knew him personally because he'd done work on my house a year earlier. He was good, but he didn't tolerate unpaid bills or late deposits. So when my mom and Tyler started ducking his calls about the missing payments, he reached out to me directly, thinking I was still involved. I told him flat out I wasn't paying for anything and that whatever arrangement he made with them was their problem now. He laughed and said, "Fair enough. But you know I don't play games, right?" I told him to do what he had to do. A week later he sent me a picture. Their house halfway torn apart, kitchen gutted, half the floors pulled up, wires exposed. And then he walked off the job. Left it exactly as is mid-repair, when they still owed him half of the deposit. I didn't respond to his text, but I'll admit, I stared at that photo longer than I should have. Part of me felt satisfied. The other part? Even more satisfied. A day later, my cousin Kayla texted me out of nowhere, saying I had to call my mom because the house is a disaster and she's losing it. I didn't reply. Then the calls started again, but I didn't pick up. Then, out of the blue, Tyler emailed me. He never emails. The subject line said, "Real mature." The message. He wrote that the repairs were stuck, Mom was sick with stress, and that since I'd helped arrange the contractor, I should have warned them he was unreasonable. He said this whole mess was partially my fault. I didn't answer. But I did forward the email to the contractor, just so he could see the circus. He replied with one line, "They should have paid their invoice." It only got worse from there. A few days later, my mom sent another message. She didn't even try to hide it, she needed money. She said the house was unlivable, they couldn't cook in the kitchen, the flooring in 2 rooms was ripped up, and the electrician wouldn't finish until the payments cleared. She ended it by saying, "This is what happens when family doesn't help each other." I stared at that last sentence. For years, I believed that lie. That helping meant draining myself dry so they could keep taking. Not anymore. And I still wasn't done. Another week passed, and the silence made me suspicious. Then my mom's number popped up again, but this time it was Tyler leaving the voicemail. He said they'd sorted things out with the contractor and didn't need anything from me anymore. I knew that wasn't true. That contractor doesn't just forgive unpaid deposits. So I called him to ask. He laughed and said, "Sorted out?" No. They begged, offered to pay half, and I told them to find someone else. So they lied. I should have expected that. But then, a few days later, I got another message, this time from my aunt. She asked if I'd be home this weekend because my mom wanted to drop by. I told her no. I wasn't interested in surprise visits. That Saturday, they showed up anyway. My mom, Tyler, and my aunt. My kids saw them from the window and asked if Grandma was finally coming to visit them. I didn't have the heart to explain, so I told them to stay upstairs and watch a movie. I opened the door just enough to hear them, and the first thing out of my mom's mouth was, "We didn't come to fight, but we do need your help." She didn't ask about the kids. She didn't ask how I was. She launched straight into the problem. Apparently, the new contractor wanted an even higher deposit because of the state the house was left in. They needed cash fast, and the joint account was closed, so I had to help. I told her no. Again. Then Tyler stepped forward and said, "You're really going to watch your family drown over a little pride?" That's when it hit me. They didn't see me as family. I was just the bank. The problem solver. The fallback. I told them to leave. My mom tried again, softer this time, saying that family comes through when things get bad. I said, "Funny, because things got bad when you told me not to come in." She stood there speechless. For the first time, I think she actually didn't know what to say. I shut the door on them and locked it. I stood there for a few minutes, listening to them argue on the porch before they finally left. They still hadn't seen the kids. They didn't ask. That was it for me. They thought they could treat me like an afterthought, until they needed something. But this time, there was nothing left for them to take. And the best part, I wasn't even angry anymore. Just done. After that last visit, the calls finally stopped. The messages dried up. I think they realized I wasn't budging this time. Weeks passed, then months. I didn't hear from them, not for the holidays, not for my birthday, not even a random check-in. And I didn't reach out either. Then one afternoon, I ran into Kayla, the cousin who texted me before, at the grocery store. She looked uncomfortable the second she saw me, but she still came over. She said, "You know, things are really bad at your mom's house. They're still living with the floors torn up. They haven't had a proper kitchen since the summer." I just said, "I know." She watched me for a second, like she was waiting for a flicker of guilt. Then she said, "They're saying you abandoned them. That you're punishing them." I shrugged. I told her they abandoned me first, and my kids, a long time ago. She didn't have much to say after that. A week later, I got one last message from my mom. She said she hoped I was proud of myself, that I turned my back on my family when they needed me most, but that I shouldn't bother coming around when things were good again. I blocked her. And just like that, it was quiet. I kept expecting them to find another way to reach me, but they didn't. I think for the first time, they actually believed me when I said no. Months later, I heard from a distant relative that they'd finally found a contractor, but they had to take out a loan to pay for the mess. They were struggling with the payments and the repairs were still dragging. I didn't care. For the first time, my life was peaceful. My kids were happier. No more questions about why grandma didn't visit, no more explaining why no one came to birthdays. It's funny, I always thought cutting off family would be this dramatic, painful thing. But it wasn't. It was like taking out the trash. We live our life. They live theirs. And I never looked back.